Call to order the Finance and Human Resource Committee meeting for Monday, September 27th. Councilmember Mark Davies.
Here.
Councilmember Scott Harrington.
Here.
Councilmember John Rafter.
Here.
Any corrections needed for the minutes of September 13th at our regular meeting? Hearing none. Topic A is the bus driver sign-on bonus. Katie, did you want to do this?
Sure, I will get started, and then Greg and Dave, of course, if you guys have anything to add, just jump in. So as you may recall, back in March, the council had authorized the implementation of our very first sign-on bonus program, which was to help us in recruitment for bus drivers, which is a very difficult position to fill due to the national bus driver shortage and other factors. We implemented it. We really didn't get a lot of traction. I believe Councilmember Davies at one point in a subsequent meeting had asked how things were going, and I said it really hadn't had an effect. And shortly thereafter, we ended up having, I want to say 3 part-time applicants who cited that as a factor in why they were, coming to join the team. So we're making progress in terms of our staffing, but there's still progress to be made. So in discussion with our CSEA partners about this topic, they had suggested a couple of modifications to this plan, and I actually thought that they were very good, so I wanted to bring them forward to you to consider some revisions. So the revision that they suggested, and I actually agree with it, is that in addition to a sign-on bonus, we add a referral bonus for existing employees, because then it provides some sort of benefit to our existing employees, not just people coming in. And also we found through market research of, asking people, how did you hear about us? How did you apply? How did you find out about this test? Or how did you find out about this vacancy? More often than not, word of mouth is what's, getting the buzz and buzzword, spread about jobs. So we would like to add a referral bonus that would be 50% of the sign-on bonus, so $500 under certain parameters, which would be, obviously it's one lifetime per person. You can't recruit your friend, have them come sign up and then leave and then come back and get it. It's one per hired employee. It also would be, the person would have to complete 6 months of service. They would have to complete their probationary period. They would have to be, otherwise successful in the role as determined by the transit director. So that is effectively the modification that they are seeking. I thought it was an excellent idea. I think it would be worth trying to see if there's anything else we could do to incentivize folks to come and join the team.
$1,000 sign-on bonus, correct? That's what we have now for the driver.
Yes, sir. It
And
is.
how long do they have to stay on before they obtain that?
It is well, they get the first half within their first paycheck, and then they get the second half, the second $500 after 6 months of completion of service. So we're just looking to set it with the same parameters.
Have we had anybody leave after 6 months?
We have not, well, the only people we've taken on have been very recently. Dave, I want to say we've hired everybody pretty much in August and the beginning of September. So we're not at that 6 month mark yet, but we could certainly report back as it progresses.
What kind of traffic are you expecting for the referral program?
What kind of traffic? Well,
I was staying within the transportation realm.
I think the joke was lost with the mask. It could have been.
Sorry.
Well, I think that ultimately I would expect traffic lines out my doors, because who doesn't love $500? So this is something we can put out to, and it's not just for OPT employees. This is open to every city employee. If you know somebody and you recruit a qualified driver and it works out and they come and do a great job, I mean, again, it just capitalizes on that word now in terms of training safety.
Okay.
So the second, obviously the first, should you agree to move this forward to the full council, the first step would be to adopt the revisions to the March 16th policy. And also because it came from the CSEA and we're working through this with them, there would also be a memorandum of understanding with the CSEA officially adopting this policy, because of course compensation is a mandatory subject of negotiation with the labor union. So we need an MOA to make it officially official.
Any other questions for Katie? Is there any objections to having her? I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm just curious, how many drivers are we kind of short right now?
think it's hard, I won't answer for Dave, I know while he's thinking about it, it's hard to look at the drivers in terms of number of people. We really have to look at the number of hours because we have such a robust part-time staff.
Right.
We have roughly equivalent the same number of drivers that we've had, but a lot of them have reduced from 3 and 4 days a week to 1 run or 1 day a week, which has of course had a significant impact on Dave's ability to fill runs. I mean, Dave, of course he won't say it, but he's personally driving buses almost on a daily basis just to fill in and keep things moving.
Wow. Okay, thank you.
Sorry.
That's fine. I met a young man a couple of months ago down off of River Street, and I believe he had, Dave, I apologize. I think he had a CDLB and he was working for an existing company and he wasn't getting enough time to whatever the next level is up. Is that D, C, D, I don't know, whatever.
You have to have a CLB with a P endorsement. So what I'm thinking is he probably had a C and he was trying to get to a B. You have to have so many hours of service before you.
Yep.
Success for a B.
He was a little frustrated with his current employer. He wasn't getting enough time.
Right.
Do we take those kind of folks on and try to get the hours in, or are they not eligible to be?
In the past, if their track record is good, we've brought them on and we've helped them obtain their B license. And I'm not opposed to that in the current situation we are in. The only problem that we have doing that right now is we're all driving and the training is quite intensive. So I'm pulling somebody out of the seat to train.
Right.
So it takes much longer to get that accomplished and
So we're not putting on a training program then to try and.
not at this time. I'm trying to stay away from that. I'm trying to bring people in that have a B and a P.
Mm,
We're concentrating on that. Like I said, though, we had the right, we're willing to try anything at this point.
It's the right candidate with the right background.
And who would typically have that? Would that be, for example, public school bus drivers? Would they have that?
A public school bus driver has a P with a P and an S endorsement. S is their school bus.
Okay.
I have an S. And that's a whole different set of testing. It's quite more intensive. You have a 30-hour course. You have to go do a whole run and mimic and to do the test. It's pretty entailed to get the school bus. But yes, they have to have the same license as our drivers do, and then a step above.
Okay.
Is there anything else that we need to be doing for recruitment? I mean,
I don't know
from
what
our
else.
perspective, is there something that we need to be doing to help you?
I mean, Dave Corey has done everything possible to put the word out there. We've done all kinds of recruitment through radio stations and through Town Square with their computer. I mean, Katie, how do you explain that? It's
Yeah, online
kind
marketing.
of creepy.
It's targeted advertising.
That's targeted advertising.
But we did, I mean, there was a day when Dave and Dave held open interviews and they didn't have anybody show up other than the
Zero.
assistant. Well, Nancy came to see if you wanted to watch.
Yes.
She did.
Yeah, she
But I
did.
think that, they tried a variety of things and just, again, I think we're just feeling the pain of a national shortage. But I think this would go a long way in terms of, just trying another avenue and also letting our existing employees know, hey, we haven't forgotten about you.
Mhm. Is there any objection to moving this up to full council? Hearing none, we'll move that up. Topic B, full-time bus driver appointments.
So I guess I'll get started on this one too, and then Dave, if you want to just jump in. So we currently, along the lines of staffing, we have 2 budgeted full-time vacancies. Like Dave mentioned, we have been trying everything we can in an attempt to recruit part-time drivers because, they can be a little bit nimble and flexible with schedule, and then we don't have to worry about what to do with them over the summer when the colleges are in session. But ultimately, we found that we need to get people in the door to meet our contractual obligations, and we believe the best way to do that is by hiring 2 full-time bus drivers. They are both budgeted positions. They're both budgeted, correct? Well, one's budgeted and one is your.
Yes.
Okay, so you
Yes.
can maybe explain the financial. One has been vacant for the majority of this year, and
Yes.
Dave has just held off on filling it trying to try a variety of things with the part-time staff. So we have two candidates. One is someone who was a previous driver for us. His name is Steve Yeager. And then we have an existing employee, Roger Chase, who is part of our part-time staff and is really interested in, moving to full-time. Both are allocated to the CSEA wage scale. They are grade 4 at a base annual salary of $30,517. So with that said, Jenny, maybe do you want to explain where we're
Yeah.
funding that?
Included in the 2021 budget is one vacancy that this full-time position will appoint. The other full-time position, what we're trying to do is bring in a new body to provide that many more hours for driving time, and it will be covered by the CARES Act.
Any questions? Or objections? Hearing none, we'll move that forward. And I'm thinking of the same Roger that used to work for the city and he's,
No, that's Roger Oliver.
Still a part-time employee.
He's still
I
part-time.
thought I saw him.
It works lots of hours and awesome.
Topic C,
The, Dave, do you want me to take this, or?
You can if you want.
It's time to renew the OPT bus service contract with the town of Oneonta. We're proposing a 3-year contract, 2022 through 2024.
Mhm.
The current price right now is about $14,566, and we're proposing 22 to be 15,000, and then an annual $1,000 increase. Including in that payment is 4,000 that we reserve towards the next capital projects when we purchase buses, and that money gets reserved until we actually go out to, I want to say out to bid, but we normally advance for the purchase of buses. And this doesn't change the routes at all. David's pretty sure that the routes and the terms are the same.
Nothing has changed in the routing. Nothing has changed in the timing or the amount of time it takes to do the route. So everything is basically the same line.
And the town has reviewed it. Dave Merzick has reviewed it.
we're good. So I had a question about the $4,000 reserve. Dave, walk me through when you go to purchase a bus, don't you typically give federal funding for that? I thought we talked about this the last couple of years and
Yes, but that $4,000, Jenny will correct me if I'm mistaken here, goes towards the local.
Even
We
though
have to have a
the
local
local
share,
share.
and we use that to pay our local share,
All right, gotcha.
which is usually like 10%.
usually 10%. Yep.
And depending on the buses we're buying, it could be either 200,000 or 450,000.
The federal government will supply 80%, the state 10, and then our local portion is 10. And with each OPT bus contract that we've had for bus services like this with Southside, with Walmart, with Hannaford, and so on, we have gotten a capital portion in the contract to be reserved. Right now, we've got, I want to say, over $100,000 reserved. And this is a big deal because normally these contracts don't include a capital portion. So for the city to be successful at this, it's a very good thing.
Any other questions?
Yeah, when's the last time we did any kind of fee increase on the contract with the town?
Oh, it's been,
Hasn't been since I've been here.
I was
Been
gonna
that,
say,
it was, I think 17 was the last increase that I see.
And we're
I'm
going
not
from,
gonna quote the year from memory, but it has been a while.
so we're only going up like $500 for the first time, and then 1,000 for 23, then 1,000 for 24.
And you have to remember, OPT's been running at a surplus, and we haven't needed to increase the prices over the past number of years because of the surplus that we've had. But now with the hourly rates going up for the part-timers and in the future of CSEA contract negotiations as far as the bus time or bus drivers positions, we don't know what that will end up being. And also just the actual cost of running the new buses and things like that, we decided that
Sorry, what?
it was time for an increase.
Yeah, well, I'm just saying, so you're going 500 for the first one, then 1,000 for each one after. correct?
Correct.
If this is the first time we're doing it since 17, how did we come up to those numbers? Seems like it'd be a little bit more.
The reason being is, as I've talked to you before about when you look at the budget on both sides, you want slow and steady increases. So instead of hitting them with a very large request, since we haven't done anything for the past number of years. Also, we still have not spent all of our CARES Act money. We haven't touched it yet. So to justify a large increase in a contract when we haven't even touched those monies yet, I just didn't think was the proper thing to do.
Well, I don't classify this a big increase going from 500 and 1,000 each time up.
No, I'm saying, I don't know what type of increase you're looking for, Scott. But that is why we decided to just go slow.
I'm just trying to figure out how you came to those numbers, like 500 and 1,000 and 1,000.
It was really just looking at the past, looking at the surplus, and also looking at what we were doing with other contracts, for example, with Walmart and Hannaford. We didn't increase any in the last set of contracts, and it's because of the surplus we had. You have to remember, we went into 2020 with an $800,000 surplus. So we just couldn't justify increasing the prices for the contracts. But now that that surplus is being eaten up because of the COVID activity from 2020, we thought it was time to start looking at it. If you don't like the numbers, we can counter. But again, we thought we'll start small and just steadily increase it.
Did you include the $4,000 reserve on the other contract?
The other ones, their amount is $460 is their contribution.
They're smaller, much smaller contracts.
Yeah, we get a total of about $6,700 per year on the reserves with the various contracts that we have.
Any other questions? Sean, you good?
I think
Sarah,
so.
Anything for you?
No.
Hearing no other objections, we'll move this up to full council. Topic D.
We have a budgeted vacant position in DPW assigned to the streets crew, and we have found a well-qualified applicant whose name we would like to withhold publicly, pending him giving notice to his current employer. Will be filled as an HEO, heavy equipment operator, which is a CSEA grade 9, base annual salary $34,265, and the person will be looking to start effective October 18th.
I'm sorry, you did say it was vacant.
Yes, sir, it's vacant and budgeted.
Vacant funded. Anyone have any questions, concerns, objections? Hearing none, we'll move that to full council.
I got a question. Or I don't know if it's for Katie or for Greg or whoever. Just kind of looking down and looking through the salaries. I know they're contracted. Disregard, I answered my own question. Forget about it.
You good?
Yep, I'm good. Hey, you know, like I say, I got blonde hair.
Topic E.
Take this one. As you know, we've had an acting police chief since, I believe, February or March now. Acting Chief Chris Witzenberg, and we recently conducted a interview process to select a permanent police chief. And tonight I'd happily like to recommend that Chris Witzenberg be appointed the permanent police chief of the city. We interviewed several qualified candidates off a promotional list. And this process was conducted with a panel similar to what we did with fire chief appointment. This panel consisted of myself, personal director Katie Becker, fire chief Brian Knapp, and two members of the community, Dr. Ari Toby Ayemo and Anita Hobson. And also we had Mayor Herzig sit in with us and participate as well as representing the city at large. Through this process, really Chris's experience is more than sufficient for this position, and we think he's the best candidate to fill the position. I'm trying not to go too far into details about personal qualifications, that sort of thing. We can discuss those further in executive session if you'd like, but just a quick brief history of Chris's role in the city. He's been lieutenant. Obviously, before that, he was hired in 1998 and has served in several roles throughout that time: sergeant, then detective sergeant, and then on to lieutenant. We believe his unique skill set is perfect for this position. Are there any
Questions?
questions?
No, sounds good.
Proposed starting date, if the council were to approve, would be October 6th at a base annual salary of $95,000.
Any objection to having this moved up to full council?
Just a quick question, Greg, to clarify, did you say it was unanimous of the?
Yes.
Hearing no objections, we'll move this up to full council.
You said 95,000, right?
Everybody get an opportunity to read the part-time employee professional development training policy. Does anybody have any questions regarding that? Hearing none, we'll move that up to full council for consideration. We're on to topic G.
We are working on CDBG economic development application. It's actually under the small business program for the 607 Social Eats project. That is Al and Michelle Rubin's new business that they're working on. The building at, it's kind of at the end of the city limits.
It is.
And we're going to be applying any day now for up to $100,000 grant. And then be created up to 4 full-time equivalent low moderate income jobs. And the business is going to be a cafe. They have a benefits corporation that owns the business. And some or all of the profits will be going back into the community and supporting nonprofits and things like that. So it's going to be a cafe and a community gathering spot. And you just need an authorizing resolution to be able to submit the application. There's no local match.
So there's no cost on it, right?
And there'll be some money, we don't have a budget yet, but there'll be some money included for administration costs for the thing.
It's usually 5%.
Yeah, I'm not, somewhere around that. 5 or 10,000, probably more than that.
Cover your costs. Okay. Sharon?
Fine. Sounds good.
Good. Hearing none, we'll move topic G up to full council. Topic H.
Sidewalk replacement contract. We have not opened bids yet. I believe they open on Thursday this week. We have approximately $46,000 available to spend, possibly more than that if we were able to dedicate some CHIPS funding for miscellaneous sidewalk replacement. These aren't full blocks of sidewalk or any new sidewalk. These are replacements of bad sections that either we've received complaints about or just identified through our auditing process as needing to be replaced. There's certainly more than what we'll be able to accomplish with this project to be done citywide, but this does touch a number of areas around the city. Just read off a list of certain areas: 21 Brook Street, Center Street, Church and High, Ford Ave, Main Street, Normal Ave, Walling Ave, Walnut Street, Wilcox Ave, Wells Ave, West End Ave, and Butler Street. So there's a number of areas, smaller sections, not a huge contract. The contractor will just be forming and pouring the concrete after DPW does the prep work. So we expect to bring a number to council on Tuesday, and we would hope to get much, if not all of this done this fall. It'll be a tight time frame.
And this is outsourced or is this city staff?
The DPW would do the excavation and prep the site, and then the contractor, which is what we're hoping to award on Tuesday, would come in, form and pour the sidewalk.
Is that how you've done it in the past?
Yeah, sometimes we've done it before where we've done projects that are completely contractor,
Mhm.
all the labor materials on them. In this case, it's cost effective for our crew to be able to go in there, dig out the existing sidewalk, prepare it, and then have a contractor who's better at finishing concrete come in and do it more efficiently than us.
So then do we set up the cones and safety barriers?
Yeah.
And we're responsible for that? Okay. Any further questions? Hearing none, we'll move that up.
Next one, West Street Upper PRV replacement. PRV stands for pressure reducing valve. This is a portion of our water system. We have several of these throughout the system where elevation changes occur, regulating pressures. In this case, this is in the town of Oneonta, as part of the city's water system, just below the upper SUNY Oneonta maintenance entrance. This would replace the valves and piping within that pit as well as the PRVs themselves. Again, we don't have a price back yet. We hope to have that and be ready to bring a number to you on Tuesday. We're expecting this will, I think, be in the $30,000 to $40,000 range in total.
And we have a budget.
We transferred money as part of our July reconsiderations. I believe it's $30,000. So that coupled with some existing funds we had in the water code, we think we should have enough. But obviously, if we don't, then we would also be coming with a request for a budget transfer. But I think we're probably going to be okay in that regard.
Any questions? Hearing none. And then did everybody get an opportunity to take a look at the budget transfers?
Yes.
Greg, I'm assuming you want to have more of a conversation on this.
There are no questions. If there are any questions, certainly Jeannie and I can talk about them. I think this is normally a quarterly report, Jenny, that we'll provide. Now that we have an administrator, anything below $20,000, it's a transfer that's budgeted and be done by Jenny and I without prior council approval. We just have to report those. So nothing on this list should represent unbudgeted funds being dedicated to a project. It's just transfers between codes. I wasn't intending to go through each one by one, but we could if you'd like.
Good. Hearing none. Do we need to go in executive session?
However, there's another item that we would hope to bring up if you allow us. Apologies for not having it on the agenda. It was an oversight on my part. I'm actually going to pass it off to probably Judy to introduce, or Jenny.
I'm sorry, Jake stepping as you do, but, we have an item that we want to discuss and hopefully fund. I guess I can name her name, right?
I think you can, yeah.
Okay, so Sonia Schultes has been in touch with us. She is an owner, one of three that owns this event that they used to do in Hunter Mountain annually. It's a yoga music festival that they do in the fall. And Hunter Mountain no longer will host it because they're only hosting their own events. So Sonia is looking for a home. It brings between, in a normal year, a non-COVID year, it can bring up to 1,000 people to the event over an entire weekend. Under COVID, it might bring 500 or so. She's planning on the first one next fall. And she's looking at the city of Oneonta, but she's also looking at Lake George. Lake George has a funding program available for these types of things that she can apply to. She's pretty sure she'll get around 20,000 or so from them. So she's asking us if we could help her. It would be held at Foothills. If she needs more additional space because of COVID, some of it may be outside, possibly in a park, possibly outside of Foothills. The food would be supplied by her attendees going out to our restaurants and using our hotels and everything in the area. So, 500 to 1,000 people over a Saturday and Sunday is pretty good amount of people. She has a price from Foothills, but she's going to be talking to them if she can get a little bit lower. So I don't have the exact price yet from Foothills, but she's looking for assistance with that, and she's asking for around 15,000 if we can swing that. Jen, you want to talk about your community development money?
Sure. We have a fund from Community Development Program income. And I think you've heard me mention before that we have to separate it between I call it old HUD money and then New York State HUD money. In 2001, the federal government turned over the program income and all of the CDBG grants over to the state. And we have to just keep the record straight. So the state is not concerned about any of our program income prior to 2001 or any of our activity related to those loans. We currently have about $100,000 on hand within that fund. And this would be a perfect purpose to spend those funds to fund this event for bringing in economic development to all of our local businesses and restaurant owners and hotel owners and things like that. So this would need a council approval for the funding and council approval for the budget amendment if you were to agree that you wanted to support this project.
She brings in instructors for the courses that they give over the 2 days. They're nationally known instructors, and a lot of the people that come follow those instructors wherever they have their workshops and things. So she's getting quite a draw from across the country for this.
She would also like to make it, if it works out, she would like to make Oneonta the home for the event and have it held in Oneonta every year. And we're hoping that if we can get it started for her, that she'll get more sponsors along the way. And so the city's involvement will become less and less each year. So it would depend on, how successful everything works out.
Yeah, and we've also talked to her, because she'll need a lot of volunteers when this happens. So we've talked to her about connecting with Katrina and DO and using, having Katrina help network to help this event. Go on.
Judy, have you given any thought on how this fits into the bigger picture of Snowmagang or other events that we have, or Kano's Arts and Crafts event that comes to mind? Because the question is going to be asked, this sets a precedent, and how do we handle other requests? Do we have a process for handling other requests? Do we have criteria for consideration? I think it's a positive thing. I just want to make sure that we know what we're getting into and we can answer the questions that others will ask. And you mentioned DO.
Mhm.
And since we contract with DO now, and one of the primary deliverables that we expect from DO is putting on events, could this be part of DO's contract to sponsor this event in working in partnership with Sonia's business?
Yeah, I think that would have to be discussion with both Sonia and DO. But yeah, it's the same kind of thing that, they fit together. Do you want me to talk about the program? I mean, sorry, Jenny, with this $100,000, Ginny has been talking about making it into a program and setting up some parameters and making it public so that it wouldn't be just for events, it would be for anything that is going to help, economic development, community development, the downtown or whatever. We don't want to limit it too much because it'd be nice if we could have some really cool ideas that we haven't thought of. If they come in, they could apply for this money. But it's, you know, it's $100,000 there that we can make available for other people. It's just, we're in competition with Lake George right now. That's why we brought this up rather than bring the program first. We'd really like to be able to give Sonia an idea if it's something that could be funded through this fund.
I can be honest with you, that's exactly where I went. I went right to Destination Onion in my head, and I'm thinking this is about 30% of their annual budget for one weekend. And I know their contract is coming due. And as Gary just said, this is going to set a precedent, and we don't have a program in place. So we're going to make a commitment to fund 30% of Destination Oneonta's budget to this one event. And I'm, you're just kind of popping this on us. I'm just trying to digest it of what the ramifications of this is going to be. And how does it affect us making decisions moving forward with any other not-for-profit that comes in? I think if we were looking at October of 22, that's a different story.
Sonia is a for-profit, isn't she? She's not.
It's a benefit. I have to check with her. I believe that she was talking about a benefit corporation. I think right now it's an LLC though. That she has. I'm not sure if she has plans. Do you remember in our conversation?
I don't remember. Not-
It's not a nonprofit, I don't think. Her other partners, one partner grew up here but doesn't live here, and the other one is in California, I think. And they took this over because they just didn't want to see this die because it was growing each year substantially, and then COVID hit. But we did do something like this when we funded the Main Street program. Like, we've had a little precedent on it, and which is why it'd be nice to have this program set up with some parameters. Of course, we can hold Sonia's request until we get a program set up, and then it would go through whatever that program is. We just didn't want to lose it with too much things.
And we had a similar discussion about the $6,500 for the other organization. I apologize. I'm trying Mission on Main. So now we have a break off, and we still haven't developed the program. And I knew we were going to be looking at that again in the budget process. So I was kind of hoping we were going to address that, put it under one umbrella. And then we're looking at this.
And just so you know, she's not looking to hold the event this fall. This would be an event for 2022 next. So it's not for this year. So, and the reason why we wanted to bring it to you is just to give Sonia an indication of they're interested but not definite yet. Or should we tell her no, go to Lake George? That we just need to and if you don't want to give us an answer tonight, that's fine. And then Judy and I can work more on the program guidelines and bring that forth. But we just wanted to get it out there to see what your reaction was. Judy and I both think that it would be a great event for Oneonta to have, especially on an annual basis. And I just think it would draw a bigger and bigger crowd every year like it has been.
And I think a lot can tie into it. It's music and other organizations and businesses can get on board that weekend with their stuff,
But we're not looking for an answer tonight, but we just wanted to bring it to for your reaction, your input. Do you think it's something that the city would support?
Well, I would be in favor of you going forward with developing a program. But, Snowmagang jumps out at me as something that's almost the exact same thing. And certainly we don't give them any money. So we need to be prepared to answer, the questions that some of us will certainly get is why are they getting the money and we're not?
Yeah, I even think of the pit run. Does the city normally give money to the pit run? And they're 27 years of, I think of the thousands and thousands of people that brings in. I can be honest, I like the idea, Judy, but I'm hesitant of going down this path because it does set a precedent the minute we say yes to this. So if we can fund, if you're having a revolving fund that you're going to be able to, support events, then yeah, but we have existing events. I don't, do we give money to the pit run?
No, we don't give money to Pit Run. And does the Pit Run coordinate with DO at all?
I don't know.
No, they're on their own.
And then again, I feel like Gary about this is like, I feel like we're doing this individually or siloed in our thinking. It seems like Destination should be able to wrap their arms around that with their board and committees. You mentioned volunteers, that's what they do. They go out and get volunteers. I would rather see Destination Louisiana take that on, have that conversation with Katrina to see if that's something they're interested in taking on. And then we deal with one entity.
So then, in that case, if we had this money set up and had it set up with some parameters for applying for it and stuff, then we would be saying any events go through DO, and then DO applies to the city for an amendment to the contract to cover it. Is that? Or could the event just apply to us, and then any event could apply to us? And we normally with grants that we give out, like the micro grants and things, we have a project review committee that is set up, and they make the decisions on that. So we could set it up that way that, you know, anybody could apply for this money. It wouldn't be a revolving fund, it would be a grant fund. If it runs out of money, it runs out of money. If we have more old loan payments made, then it replenishes itself. But that way, the project review committee could accept applications on a rolling basis and make their decisions, and we're all set. So whether DO is applying for amendment to their contract or a separate entity is applying, we could have it set up that way.
It kind of opens up the discussion, right, about tourism. Like this would be part of tourism.
I think it's part of marketing, part of tourism, part of economic development. I'd like to see that fund really wide open, because there could be things coming in that aren't necessarily something bringing people in, but maybe it's like, for example, we have a really crappy awning that covers 2 buildings. One is funded to take it down, one is not. It's that kind of thing that, you know, that's an off the wall kind of thing, but it would be great if we could have a fund like this to take care of things like this, that, you know, that would help what downtown looks like. It's not necessarily economic development, but it certainly improves what things look like. So,
Well, Judy, first off, the wall is a good pun for an awning, but
that has to come out.
it has to come down. But, you know, I think it's all good stuff, but we really do have to have criteria because, you know, when we're spending the taxpayers' money, we have to explain why some people get it and some people don't. So, you know, I think you and Ginny, and maybe there's 1 or 2 council members who are interested in this, can work with you. And there's probably 10 different ways of doing this, and no one is necessarily right or wrong, but maybe you and Ginny and 1 or 2 council members can form a group to toss around some of the ideas and see what you come up with.
And I would like to see you have a conversation with Katrina. I think you mentioned that earlier, that you're thinking about talking with her about that.
I think a bigger conversation we need to be with someone. You know, I think Katrina would be willing to handle events and stuff as long as there's, you know, money to cover it.
Sure.
It's just, it's Sonia's thing, so she's the one that, you know, we have to make sure we want to work with DO. So I guess we aim for like maybe the next finance committee. That I'd like to get that quickly, because I'd like to have an answer for her. So, and we can go back and tell her that we're coming up with a program,
Mhm.
and she would be eligible for the program.
So are you thinking that you're gonna do a program and you're not gonna include Katrina in the conversation? Is that what you're thinking?
No, I would have to, it's 2 separate things. We have to come up with a program for the grant money.
Sure.
And then with Sonia, we have to talk to Sonia, and we have to talk to Katrina to see what could be done to have DO as somehow part of it, whether they be, you know, taking it over and with Sonia or coordinating with Sonia.
what is your timeline or what is Katrina's timeline for needing an answer?
I think it's Sonia.
It's Sonia.
Sonia.
Time, I'm sorry.
Well, she is in active discussions with Lake George on applying for a grant with them. And their grants are up to 50,000. And they said, they've already told her that 20 is probably a no-brainer. She was holding off, waiting for our answer. So ASAP, I would say, is Sonia.
When were you guys first approached about this, or when did she come?
Well, it was, I don't know, maybe like a month ago, but she was getting prices, and then she got prices from Foothills, which were pretty astonishing. And then she was gonna go back and talk to Foothills again, so that was within the past. couple
Right, and just,
weeks.
her request is only to help her cover the Foothills bill. She's not looking to have any other expenses covered. It was just the venue itself. So if Foothills had quoted her 5,000, that would have been her request. But Foothills actually quoted her almost 25,000. So, so we've asked her to go back to Foothills to see if she can negotiate that down. And then she was gonna come back with us with an updated number, because we told her that that was just too high for us to bring to council.
Yeah, and she said even at the 23, if she could get the 15 from us, that would go a long way to help her be able to have it here. So.
And I think she's also been in discussions with
Ben Gunther.
Ben Gunther, and he's very interested in helping her support the project.
And letting her use the fields.
Sure.
Fields there. So, she's doing her homework and coming up with other money, and she has other sponsors, but this, like Jimmy said, this was to carry the big cost that she's got. And it was unexpectedly high.
25 for the weekend.
About 23. I think it was.
Yeah. Well, it was 23 something for one bill, and then it was a couple thousand for another bill. I forget exactly. I forget the details. I didn't bring it with me, but
Yeah, it was a lot.
I assume she
She has a
doesn't,
whole facility.
I assume she doesn't have a weekend that she has to do it on.
She's looking at September or October.
She's flexible, though.
She's flexible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot going on in the fall weekends, and we want to make sure we pick a weekend that doesn't conflict with other events.
Yeah, and like for her to do it in Foothills, she went into a pretty long explanation of this, but for her, she's better off having it inside if possible because of the sound systems. If she's outside, each area that they're in would have to be covered for weather purposes, but it also, each area would need its own sound system. And then you have to be careful with flipping sound back and forth and on. So she can have some events outside, but inside, and then she needs a massive amount of space to do yoga classes throughout a building for over an entire 2-day period. And if she has COVID requirements with a 6-foot separation, she needs even more space.
Our armory doesn't meet her needs.
I don't think our armory is in a condition, is it, Greg, for an event like that?
Well, I'm just trying to think of the square footage in the foothills and that atrium compared to our armory.
Well, she's taking over the whole thing to the theaters, the atrium, whatever.
she'll have
space
more.
they have.
She'll have more than one workshop going on at a time.
Sure.
Yeah.
Because we even kind of talked to her about how about the Elks Club? They've got a big banquet room.
Sure.
They have other rooms, and she just thought the logistics of it would not work for, how she lays out the different workshops.
Yeah, she needs separate spaces for things, and the one weekend she wanted it, I think they had a conflict, or any weekend she wanted, they had a conflict on Sunday morning with the church, so that's an issue she's got in Foothills that she's trying to straighten out. That she needs the entire space, so she's trying to sort all that out, and we're just trying to see what we could do to help support her, because it'd be an awesome event to have here rather than.
You had mentioned, you may have mentioned it. How many, what's the history of attendance?
They were getting up into the 1,000 before COVID, and then they did one, COVID, and it was about 500.
Yeah, I was just trying to get
So
a handle on
she's at
how
the
many
500
people
to
come in.
1,000 range, and then she's hopeful it'll grow if it's, as it gains success and has an identity here, she thinks it will grow.
And it's over a 3-day period or?
Today, Saturday, well, I think
Well,
they come in Friday.
Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
And then it's all day Saturday and all day Sunday.
We'll talk about this in a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
There's no other items, Craig, to be on the agenda,
None from me.
and then there's no need for executive session. Is there any items from any committee members? None.
Just to talk a little bit about, if to stay around for a bit, to talk about the agenda for,
Wednesday.
just to clarify what that's about.
Okay, hearing none. Can I get a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Seconded. Thank you, everybody.